Hello on a very chilly March day in London. I just wanted to make this video. It's going to be a short video, and it's really about astrological things happening. There are two very big things happening this month, one of which has already happened, which is that Saturn has moved from Aquarius into Pisces. The other thing that's going to happen is that Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius. Now, Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008. It moved in. There was the whole financial crash. There's been a lot of things going on, over all those years. And Pluto tends to bring a lot of toxic stuff out and sort of purify it by the end of the day in one way or another. But you only really see its good effects kind of afterwards, really. That's when you really notice that something has shifted and something has changed. Pluto's been in Capricorn, though, and that's been pretty heavy. The whole area of Capricorn is it can be very concerned with like top-down stuff, social top-down stuff, and authority and things like that. And with Pluto there, it's brought about a lot of a sense of I guess of things like corruption, really, and of all sorts of things happening at the level of authority and things that it's brought out a lot of negative things, and it has a pretty heavy vibe to it. And that is now going to move into Aquarius, which will have its own issues, for sure. But it is a switch anyway. It's a switch out of Capricorn. That will occur later in the month, and it will be there in Aquarius for 3 months before it moves back into Capricorn for a final cleanup before it goes into Aquarius next January for about 20 years. So that's one thing that's happening, one thing that's coming, and it's a big shift. It's a very, very big shift. I would always say with these things, it's okay to be interested and to look at what's happening socially, etc. But remember that the important thing is you, your spirituality, and your course, your true course, your life. That's what's important. So look at how you can tune into these things positively. Look at how you can learn from the transformative influence of Pluto, because it is very transformative. When it hits things in people's charts, it's often very, very challenging and very hard. But it's a very necessary force, and it brings life back, essentially. No Pluto, no life, basically. So it really does brings life into things. And what Pluto finally destroys is that which is dead, essentially. That which is dead and which blocks life. It removes those blocks. So it's just something to bear in mind. There are all sorts of things to think about with it going into Aquarius. There are all sorts of things to look out for, but I think it's good to try and tune into the positive spiritual side of Aquarius and really be true to that. Look into what that means to you, and I think that's going to be the most helpful way of looking at it. The other thing, which I was talking about, was Saturn moving into Pisces. Saturn has now moved into Pisces. I think it's over the last probably day or two or something, I'm not sure. But it's right at the beginning of Pisces now. It's been in Aquarius for a few years. Saturn is generally in the sign for between 2 and 3 years. It's sort of like 2.5 years. Sometimes it varies according to various things. But it's usually about 2.5 years that it stays in a sign. Saturn's been in Aquarius. Saturn is a planet of restriction and learning, testing. And so Saturn, having been in Aquarius, would have given you a very definite sense of a shutdown on freedom and a clamping down on freedom, because Aquarius is a freedom-loving sign, most essentially. when Saturn conjuncted when Saturn actually was in conjunction with Pluto, you know, virtually the same time, you know, really, really close in time terms. You know, there was the pandemic and the lockdowns happened. Yeah, so that was what was really going on there. Yeah, and Saturn being in Aquarius, it tends to give this sense of a shutdown on freedom and real restriction. Now, Pluto's moving out of Aquarius. I'm sorry, Saturn is moving out of Aquarius, so that sense of restriction should actually start to lift. I think that sense of the clampdown on freedom should start to lift in that sense. Of course, we've now got Pluto in Aquarius, which is a very, very heavy planet in its influence, but it works differently. It does work differently. So Pluto, sorry, I keep on getting mixed up. Saturn has moved out of Aquarius. That should lift, and it's moved into Pisces. I think what this is going to do is give a sense of confusion, really, in some ways. I think there's going to be an amount of confusion because Pisces, the whole area of Pisces is like all the kind of like liquid mechanics behind appearances which allow things to actually work and move and do stuff. And Saturn going into Pisces, it was almost like a kind of a spanner in the liquid works, if you see what I mean. So I think that will probably have some interesting effects. It would mean, I think there will be a certain amount of confusion and disorientation. But confusion and disorientation is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it's necessary for us to let go of certain mental patterns and to let go of certain things and to actually go deeper. So I think Saturn in Pisces, it's on the one hand it's practical spirituality, but it's also probably a turning inward to the inner world and the inner life. Yeah, and I think it's probably that sort of thing which is going to teach, in a way, that people are going to have to start turning inward, in a sense, and turning to their spirituality more. And I think that's something which is occurring there. I think there's going to be a bifurcation, in a sense, in that there will be social things which move completely away from spirituality into quite fake areas, technologically or what have you, and that's certainly a concern. However, what that's ultimately leading to is a purging of that fakeness, that people can find the real side to Aquarius. And on the other hand, I think there's a certain amount of a kind of a confusion about things, that things are not going to work like they used to, yeah? And that people are going to have to start turning inwards to their inner life and to almost like the kind of eternal verities or what have you. And they're going to have to start going for that now and seeing what they can make of things, because the guidance system is switching off in one place, and that means it has to be found in another place. And my dog is just calling me away, so I think that's the end of the video. What is it? Bye-bye.